Hey guys, so G Cubed here. Today we're going to be looking at how to design big cubes, and particularly a 7x7 in OnShape. So I already have a 7x7 design made. We're going to be going over how I did that so you can make your own once this loads. 7x7, so it's got a lot of parts. 219 it looks like. It's going to load up all those parts, but here it is. Here's the 7x7. First we'll be looking at kind of the pieces just so I can show you. It is a fully functional 7x7. It might not be the exact same mechanism most of the mass-produced 7x7s use, but it is a functioning 7x7 mechanism. So I can show you a couple more parts here. Just select a few at random. So if you're not familiar with a 7x7, the outer layer on really anything bigger than 5x5 has to be slightly larger. If it's not, it won't really work, and this corner generally won't get a mechanism connected to it. So the outermost layer has to be thicker than the inner layers, which you can kind of see here how this layer is thicker than this layer. That's just part of how that works. So now we're going to be looking at first, I'll go through step by step what I did. This is kind of my first try, so I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to be able to recreate it, so I'm just going to go through the steps. But to do this, you do have to be fairly familiar with either OnShape or SolidWorks or whatever you're using to design, because it's moderately complicated, but not really. You just have to know how to draw a sketch and do revolves and such things like that. So it's really not that complicated because I'll show you the sketch. But first, we're going to make a 70 millimeter cube based around the origin, like this. 70 millimeters is kind of roughly a general 7x7 size, so you can kind of do something like that. So we do that first. Yep, you just gotta draw the cube, and then the next thing we're gonna do. Sorry, this is being really slow because I'm in incognito window. It's gonna go. Then the second step is you're gonna have to draw make a construction axis. If you don't know what that is, it's these little lines you can see here. I'll highlight. It's these lines. It basically just gives you something to revolve things around. So when you do this, you select origin. You just do the origin dot at the very center right there. And then I switched this. So there are a few different options. You switch it to faces of body. You do that because you want it to go through the center of the faces, so you can revolve it around the faces, not around the corners or around the edges. It has to be around the faces, and that's how you get the face turning. And then you just select the cube. Yeah, it's slowing down pretty good. You select the cube polyhedron right here. Click on that, and then you can change this to whatever length you want. As long as it's long enough to come out of the cube, you're good. So then you do that. And this stuff is pretty simple and pretty obvious. But now, let's see, we're going to look at the next thing is the sketch. This is the main part of the whole idea here is this sketch here. And this is where certain complications come in. So don't worry about these circles here. I just have them to kind of help me hold everything in place. So I'm actually just going to delete those because it kind of makes everything a lot more confusing. But here's the 7x7 sketch. You can see I've drawn out 7 lines up here, and what I did is I selected these 5 inside ones, and I clicked E to make them equal, and then I did these 2 outside ones to make them equal. And then what I did is, so now I can like scroll these around, and it keeps the middle layer ones equal and the outer layer ones equal, which is what you want. And then you can kind of take a look at the sketch. I can do my best to describe it, but really, if you're going to try to make a 7x7, this is all you need if you're a good enough designer with twisty puzzles. You just need to know this sketch and how that works. So this is the sketch I used. You can see up here we have this center, so you can imagine that being the center with a little kind of hook grip mechanism piece coming out right here, and then it goes back down, and then this center point circle I have here, which is based around the origin, is what makes the core, and everything kind of just comes down and gets connected to that. So this is the whole center piece right here, and then it just kind of goes straight down after that. Then you have the second layer of pieces coming out around the center, and so you have this hook in here, and then below this hook on this same line right here, from the circles I had before that I deleted, you have another hook coming out to connect to that third layer of pieces, essentially. It's kind of like the second layer. The center is the center, and then first layer, second layer. So this is kind of our second layer of pieces, and it has this little hook coming out of it. And then at the bottom here, it kind of goes in and up, and that is because that is how that last layer, which is the outer layer edges and the corners, big corners, get their mechanism, and that's how they're held in, is right there. This little indent is what they're kind of grabbing into. And then everything kind of comes down to this circle here. So it all revolves around the same core, which is very important. You can see a lot of these lines are pretty sloped, and that's just how that works. So I'll leave this up for a second if you want to try to pause the video for a second and kind of learn the mechanism, and then you can go off and design your own. I learned the 5x5 mechanism from a different video, and this is what I did. I just stopped the video and looked at the sketch for a little while and learned it, and then I figured out how to make a 7x7. It's pretty simple. After you learn how to make a 5x5, you can do just about anything once you kind of get the idea. And then, so this is a 7x7. So that's it for the sketch. It's going to be a minute to load, but I'll kind of go off to my next thing here. We have, next thing is I did 3 revolves, because since it's 7x7, I have to do, there's 3 different layers on each side, which are around the center. So imagine 1, 2, 3 layers, a center, 1, 2, 3 layers. That's 3, 3, and 1, which makes this all the 7 layers. And so that's why it takes 3 revolves, 1, 2, and 3. I did them all separately. I think you might be able to do them in 1 revolve, but it works better if you don't. And then I just pattered them around the 4 times, each one around this axis and this axis, and then I just split the whole thing. And that is about it for this video. Good luck designing your own 7x7. I hope you can do it the best you can.